So then, who here watching this video can remember Liam Loves Lifts, the very weird parody story I made a few years back? This was a parody of the LEIA's lift safety book, and it is a very controversial and very dark parody story. And since I made that story, I've had loads of people asking me to make part 2. So, here is the part 2 of Liam Loves Lifts. If we just have a little recap of what happened in the original story. Liam's mum overdoses him on sleeping tablets. Liam then dies, and his mum throws his body out in the trash. Fucking hell, why did I even write that? Fucking hell, this is a dark story. So, part 2, as Liam's dead, the story now continues, but this time it's Alfie loves skulls. So, to illustrate his story, I'm using this program called Dashtune, which is an artificial image generator, but this tool specialises in persistent characters, so you can create multiple images with the same character in each image for illustrating stories, which is something that all of the other image generators cannot do, because they all generate different characters in each image, which doesn't work for storyboarding. So this Dashtune program is very interesting, although it's very glitchy and very slow. I feel it's quite work in progress, although I'd recommend checking it out because it's completely free. It does actually make some good illustrations. One feature which I really like on it is if it generates an image and you like some parts of it and not others, you can mask out the parts you don't like and then get it to regenerate those parts while keeping the parts you do like, so you don't have to start again each time, which is a really good feature. So then, let's now begin with the story. However, I haven't finished the story. I don't know which way the story should end. So, in this video, I'm going to be reading out the story, but there's no ending to it, and you, the viewer, can decide how the story ends. Leave your comments on how you think the best ending should be, and I'll choose the best one. So, let's begin the story. Alfie loves skulls. One sunny day, Alfie and his mum were driving along in the car. Alfie was looking out a window very attentively. He was looking out for roadkill. Because Alfie has a very unusual and very niche hobby, which is skull collecting. Alfie dreams of becoming the UK's most prolific skull collector, and he needs to find as many different types of skull as he can. And while looking out the window, he suddenly spotted a dead fox. "Stop, Mum!" he shouts. His mum stops the car. Alfie jumps out excitedly and runs over to the dead fox. Then he goes and gets his spade and digs a hole. He then puts the fox in the hole and buries it. On his phone, he then marks the GPS location so he can come back in 6 months' time to collect a skull. And then after this, Alfie and his mum went home. And Alfie went to admire his skull collection. He currently has 350 skulls. And he has got a TV interview today from the BBC. There's a knock at the door. Alfie runs over and opens the door to the TV presenter and camera crew. Alfie is going to appear on the BBC's Unusual Hobbies programme. The TV presenter interviews Alfie in front of his skull collection. "I've got many skulls. Each one is different and has its own story," says Alfie. After the interview, Alfie is feeling very happy. He's gonna be famous. Alfie turns on the telly to watch his interview and sees himself on the BBC alongside other unusual hobbies such as window licking and toilet enthusiasts. The fame was getting to Alfie. He was now dreaming of being famous. "Someday I'll be known everywhere," he thinks to himself. The next day he goes onto his laptop, keen to get on more TV channels. Being on telly once was not enough for him. He wants to be on telly everywhere. But all of the replies he got said they weren't interested in him. He tried for months and no other TV production show had any interest in his hobby. Alfie was very upset. He wanted to be famous, so he went out with his mum to look for some more skulls. Maybe he'd find something rare enough to attract the media's attention. That evening, Alfie and his mum are watching TV and notice there's yet another grim news story. Police search landfill site for child's body. The police were searching for Liam. The Liam from Liam Loves Lifts, who had been murdered by his mum. And that gave Alfie the idea. The thing he needs for his collection is a human skull. Alfie jumps on his bike and cycles as fast as he can to the landfill site. He needs to beat the police in their search for the skull. He searched all over the landfill site trying to find the bin bag with Liam's body in it. And then, after 24 hours of searching, he found it. A bin bag with a dead child in it. Alfie was very excited but also very nervous. The police were also looking and he can't be seen, tampering with evidence. Alfie then digs a hole and buries Liam. The police will never find him now. 1 year later, Alfie was on his computer and his dreams became true. Another TV production was interested in his hobby. He was very excited. He then remembered he still needed to go and dig up Liam. He cycled back to the rubbish dump, found the spot where he buried Liam, and he finally achieved it. He finally managed to get a human skull for his collection. But then he thought to himself, this is going too far. This is illegal. Tampering with evidence and unlawful disposal of human remains. Maybe he needs to tone it down a bit. He can't say any of this to the TV crew. He'd get arrested. When Alfie got back home, the TV presenter and camera crew were waiting for him. They asked him, what is that in your bag? But Alfie thought it was best to not tell them. Then, after that, Alfie did the TV interview, where he showed off his impressive collection of animal skulls to the camera. But the TV presenter was not impressed. He thought it wasn't controversial enough for the show, considering that a TV presenter had other people lined up for the show, including people who lick poison frogs and other people who urinate in hand dryers. Alfie's skull collection was a bit boring by comparison. But Alfie was addicted to fame. He needed to get back onto TV. And then Alfie realised the only way to get on TV was to be more controversial. And that is when he revealed his most exciting skull. The human skull. The presenter was shocked. He had never seen anything like this before. The TV presenter congratulated Alfie on having a very entertaining hobby for the show, and then he left. Later on, it was revealed to Alfie that a TV show was going to be called Illegal Activities, showcasing the UK's most illegal actions. Alfie was not very happy with that name, as he felt it didn't really represent his hobby very well. Then Alfie realised how bad things have got. What he had done was an illegal act, and it was all over TV. Despite doing a 2-hour interview, the TV show had cut it down to just 5 minutes, only focusing on the most controversial part, the human skull. Alfie needed to get rid of his skull immediately. The police had seen the show and they were coming to arrest Alfie. The police were going to get a search warrant and were going to search his house, and when they discovered the skull, he'd be arrested for unlawful disposal of human remains. Alfie took the human skull and got on his bike and cycled away as fast as possible. He needed to hide that skull. Alfie cycled along to an abandoned building. He went into the building and hid the skull somewhere that nobody would ever find it. Now that skull was hidden, Alfie was safe. He then continued to explore the abandoned building. The building was very interesting, and then Alfie noticed a gun. In the UK, a gun. You never get guns in the UK. Alfie was very curious. He had never seen a gun before. He picked up the gun and decided he would investigate this a bit more later. So he put a gun in his pocket and then he started cycling home. As he cycled home, he noticed some flashing blue lights. He pulled up at his house and noticed the police were there about the skull. Alfie initially wasn't bothered, as he was going to tell the police that he had faked the whole thing for TV and the police would never know better without finding the skull. But then Alfie realised he has now got a gun on him. When the police search him, he'd be arrested for having a weapon. Alfie did not know what to do. He was in a panic. He had just sold one issue to replace it by another issue. And the police were approaching him. He needed to get away before the police realised what was going on. He jumped on his bike and cycled as fast as he could while the police were giving chase. He was cycling faster, but the police were catching up with him, and in Alfie's panic, he skidded in a pothole and fell off his bike. The police then surrounded him, and Alfie didn't know what to do. He would be arrested for having a gun, and there was no escape. There was no way he could get out of this. And then Alfie realised there was in fact a way. He had a gun. He could use his gun to get out of this. Plus, Alfie was now addicted to controversialness. Just think how controversial it'd be if he could have a police officer's skull in his collection. He pointed the gun at the police. He wanted out of this, but even more than that, he wanted their skulls. So, how should this story finish? Should Alfie get away with it? Should he shoot the police officers and get their skulls? Alternatively, should the police shoot him first? Should the police arrest him? Or is there some other ending to the story? I've got a bit of writer's block on this, so it's now up to you, the audience. How would you like the story to end? Leave a comment in the comment section, and the most interesting and creative ending to the story, I'll use that as the ending of the story.